Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Masters Muscle podcast. I am your co-host, Sean. I am joined by 8-time IFBB Masters Pro Champion, Vinnie Galanti. Vinnie, how are you, my friend?
Thank you, Sean, for believing in me here. Sean and I were talking for a while now on starting a podcast, and he would tell me, Vinnie, it's really easy. And I'm like, Sean, I'm a bodybuilder. I'm not a tech guy. I can't do this. And so I said, Sean, how about you and I just team up? You do the logistics end of it. I'll get the guest. And I said, the first guest we have to have, since it's Masters Muscle, and the podcast is geared towards the over 40 athlete. That's the premise of this. And who better than we can kick it off with Gary Udit, who is I would say, in my opinion, the #1 Masters promoter in the country, from the Masters Nationals to the Masters North American, the Masters Pittsburgh Pro, and now the Masters World. And I want to dive into a little bit about, Gary, my first question to you is, were you a competitor or a promoter first?
I was a competitor and went through the ranks, regional, local, up just winning the state level championships. And then the fact that I'm a realist got in the way, because we went down to judge a contest in North Carolina. I think the USA was there. And I thought, well, won the states. This will be the next move for me, is going to a national show. Let's walk back and see what they look like up close. And it was the year that Santoriello,
Franco.
Franco and Daryl Stafford, and it was loaded. The light heavyweights were absolutely. And I'm standing there, and the guys are walking out, and they're this short and this thick.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking, there aren't enough supplements on the East Coast to make me look like this. I better get into something else. And that's when I kind of turned my direction to promoting. I was doing judging at the time, but I was helping Jim Mannion run his contest. And, who better to learn how to promote shows than being here in Pittsburgh and under his wing. So
sure.
It was a home run. That's how
now,
I got.
When you first started, did you compete in the AAU before the NPC?
Yeah, that's when we had height classes, not weight classes.
Right.
And, I tell people with seminars, I come from a time when there was no music.
Wow.
So when you're on stage, you better bring a lot of friends. Otherwise, it was crickets.
That's great.
Oh,
How
yeah.
quickly?
A whole different trip back then. I have a picture. I wish I'd have brought it to show you. On a little box in the gymnasium at the YMCA, at the prejudging of the Mr. Pittsburgh, with a single spotlight hanging off a basketball rim. And your friends had to tell you where to stand on the box to get the best shadows. And there was no music back then. Forget about it. So, yeah, it was a whole different thing that we got going on now.
Gary, what year was that roughly?
That was 78.
Wow.
Yeah.
78.
I must have been really young.
We all were.
I'll tell you how I got into running the Masters, though.
Yeah.
I wanted to start doing nationally. I was already promoting, as part of the regimen, some drug-tested events. And back then we used polygraph. And however, the people would then, after the show, say, okay, I won this show. What the hell am I going to do now? I can't go to an open show. I'll get killed.
Mm-hmm.
So I suggested to Jim that we should create an event. I still have the pencil notes on this. Create an event that would create our world team. Because the way we picked the world team back then was at the nationals, they would ask every athlete checking in, can you pass the test? And someone eventually would say yes. and whatever he placed, that person was the world team representative.
Okay.
And, so the folks over in Europe, they knew this, and whoever took the team over, they'd get their balls busted about, yeah, what place did this guy take? So I suggested we do something called the Universe Team Contest, where the actual winners, would go to the world, be the world team. And Jim said, yeah, I think we'll call it Team Universe. And I go, I want to run it. And he goes, well, I kind of want Steve Carroll involved because he's really the promoter extraordinaire. He goes, so you can either do that as a partner, or you can have the Masters Nationals, which at that point was really not much happening. I go, I'll take the Masters Nationals. And the first year we had 110 athletes.
Wow.
And then it just took off, because we started to run it the way successful events back then were run, which is, if you guys remember, that was a time period when the national level shows went to a different city and a different promoter every year.
Right.
Yep.
Jim was trying to create exposure for the organization around the entire country. So people would put in bids, and sometimes it went good and sometimes it didn't go so good. I remember one guy, remain unnamed, had a venue that held 5,000 and he had 300 in the crowd. Maybe not so good. So they started to hone in then on the promoters and the cities that really did well.
Right.
That's how it came to that eventually. But that Masters division was my favorite. I mean, these were folks that they were coming back every year. They developed friendly relationships to the point that if somebody didn't show up, they got curious quick as to where's Joe at? I didn't see him. Is he okay?
Wow.
Because they get some real strong friendships going on over the years. So, and then it just kept climbing. It's my favorite division by far.
Gary, back then, was the cutoff still 40, or what was the age restriction back then?
Yeah. It was. I think it may have been. I may have had 50, but it was 40 and 50.
Okay.
And I used to try to add stuff, and sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission.
Amen.
So then at some point in time, it was going well, and I remember suggesting that we add over 35, and trainers came to me flat out and they go, your over 35 division is going to suck. It's going to take a couple of years because none of these guys wants anyone to know that they're over 35. So they won't do your show.
That's true.
I go, well, when they see people walking away with pro cards, I bet they change their mind, because a pro card is a pro card is a pro card. It don't matter how you win it. So eventually that picked up too. But then as time went on, we kept adding divisions because I was tracking. I always track the ages, even in the women's divisions. And I knew that some of the people in the over 50 that were actually over 60.
Wow.
So I kept suggesting, look, we need to bump this up. Sandy Williamson knows me too well. And when they got the bikini division going eventually, and I wanted to add it to the Masters, she goes, listen to me. We're not having these saggy asses on stage. You're going to want to keep adding age groups. We're not doing that. Well, the over 40 girls were spectacular, living the lifestyle. And many of them were actually over 50 because I tracked the ages to the point. Finally, one year I added over 50 and I didn't tell anybody. And a whole bunch of them were there. That was fantastic. And I happened to take a short break. I was sitting in the front row, and Jim came walking through the curtain. He came over and sat down next to me. Just at that time, Sandy had turned to the rear ladies And they did. And he goes, what group's this? I go, my man, this is over 50 bikini. And those bodies were as tight as a drum. They looked fantastic. He goes, that's amazing. I go, I'm telling you, these people are living the lifestyle. So the point was, as you know, there's only so many hours in the day. And when the numbers started to jump, the one year we walked out of there about 1:30. I still get my balls busted about that. But, so I would, so we'd hand out T-shirts that said, I survived the Masters Nationals.
Jeez.
But I suggested to him, I go, look, we need to go to 3 days, which no one did. And he was dead set against it. And I go, look, it's the only way we can do this. We need those hours for logistics. And I said, tell you what, if the thing sucks, I'm the clown. I'm the county idiot, not you. Blame it on me. Throw me under the bus. But I knew it would work. Hell, now we're up to 4 days, and with the World Championships, we're actually have a 5th day, which
wow.
I got to figure out another way to make that happen. But
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, Gary,
go ahead.
So I remember, like what you were saying, like a pro card is a pro card, right? And my whole career was the nationals in the USA, and I never thought of the Masters, and I had a hard time with that. When I was 40, and I'm like, well, let me try this Masters Nationals thing, and the guy who made me feel comfortable was Chuck Sano, because he was one of the guys, the old school guys, that did the Nationals year after year. And then when he won it, I was like, okay, this is not such a small show. Yeah. And I competed with my friend Billy Scarnati. He won the over 50 in 2007, and I took second. And then a year later, we both came back, and Billy wins the overall in the 50, and I win the overall in the 40. And he breaks my balls about he's the first one to get a pro card, because the 50s went on first. And I've just noticed now, like,
you were better when you did the over 40s than you ever were.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
That's what was so crazy. But guys like you continued to learn how to train and eat smarter and compete smarter. And here you were, and people are like, God damn, he's better now than he was when he was a younger man. I go, yeah, incredible.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So Vinnie, actually, Vinnie, I'm sorry. Ironically enough, Bill is actually watching now and just commented and said Gary, without a doubt, puts on the best competitor-centric shows. He's actually watching as we speak.
Well, those are kind words. But the first thing, I had the good nature of living in Pittsburgh, which meant I get to learn from Jim. And the very first time we got together, I still got the same brown book that I used back then, believe it or not. I used to expedite his show, and I wanted to make it a little more detailed because Jim was more of a big picture guy looking to develop things on a big basis, and I was a detail guy. And so we got together and talked about details, and that wound up being the whole key to this. Was taking the very first thing he said was, you must take care of the athletes first, because without them, we got nothing.
Absolutely, yeah. Jim's always been
that way. Do you feel like that's a problem, Gary, with a lot of promoters? Not to put you on the spot, but do you think that's a problem sometimes?
Well, I think sometimes some details get lost in the shuffle. People say to me, "Man, that's the greatest," and I go, a little OCD goes a long way, because that detail you forget is going to make me look like the village idiot, or it's going to have someone walk away say that wasn't all that good. So that me and I certifiably, Vinnie will tell you, I have the best team of people with me.
Oh yeah,
and actually in the world, they're the best in the world, and all they want to do. It's the most varied group of people you can imagine. There's people on that team working hard to make ends meet, and there are multimillionaires on that team, and they all join up at the Pittsburgh and the Masters and the North America and the Olympia with one goal in mind, which is to run the best event possible.
Yep.
And what happens is that the whole goal is to take care of the athletes. And I know for a fact, because the athletes then, they text and email relentlessly, and they've done this for years. And they say, that team is the best I've ever seen. I'm telling all my friends.
Yep.
And must tell their friends because the numbers keep climbing.
That's one of the reasons why I kept coming back to compete in all your shows. It's just a well-run.
You know, how many times this happened, Vinnie? Maybe since you were competing relentlessly, you knew what you had to look like. I had friends, however, that had cool careers in their 20s. And they were good bodybuilders, 25, 26, 27. And then they went off and got a life. Maybe had a family, relationships, good job. And then decided to come back. And one kid, a number of times people would call you, hey, I'm going to come up and do that Masters Nationals. And I go, have you seen it? And they go, no, but I've stayed in pretty good shape. And it's like,
oh, yeah.
this is not going to, and sure enough, they have no idea what they're walking into.
Oh, sure.
You can tell which guys simply quit competing, but never quit working out. Because there are some body parts that don't come back.
Yep.
Right.
But these goddamn guys, I mean, to see the skin tone, I mean, truthfully, like, Vinny's the greatest example. All he does is keep getting better into years that, way back when it just didn't happen. It's crazy.
Yeah, I see guys backstage at the Masters Nationals and the Masters Pittsburgh Pro who haven't competed for years and think Masters, and they don't know what they're getting themselves into. And
there's a guy that
they're one and done.
One of the first years I ran that, as a matter of fact, I remember walking in. I never get to see much of the show. I'm running like crazy. There was a guy on stage, a white mustache and white hair, and what looked like a late 20s body. And I was like, God damn. So that's Masters bodybuilding right there, man.
It's funny because back in the day, teenage competitors were prevalent and Masters was kind of like laughed at a little bit. And now we don't see many teenage competitors and Masters is just flooded. And these girls, the wellness, the figure, the women's with physique, men's classic, they're bringing quality physiques to the stage. And it's guys like you that are given the opportunity for them. And
well, they really are, and they keep getting better. And the vibe at the events is entirely different than it is at the open national events, because this is a mature group of people. At the hotels, I'm told that no group at the hotels tips like our folks do. They tip like there's no tomorrow. They're nice folks. There was a teachers group at the Masters Nationals that had part of the hotel. They would request to be there on our weekend.
Wow.
But everyone's so cool. I mean, there are bound to be some instances. I mean, one guy's wife knocked him out at the bar one day. You're bound to have domestic situations, but beyond that, there's usually not many. One guy I had the lady at the contact at the gym was Myrna. Myrna was about 4'6" by 4'6", and she smoked since she was 12. So she talked like this, and I tell everybody at the hotel, I go, listen to me, just in case someone's a little rude on these diets, you must tell me, because that's not permitted. And so we don't have issues. But she called me one day. She goes, you said you want to know everything, right?
Oh, boy.
Yes, Myrna. So I meet her in the lobby. She said, we had to replace an entire toilet up on 6. And I go, oh, yeah, why is that? And she said, well, there was a yam stuffed into it, and we couldn't get it. We had to replace the toilet. And I go, well, would you please find out the name of that person? And
oh, my God.
Just coming up on a men's meeting for the finals. And she told me, And I don't know what the hell the guy's name was, Dave Smith or something. Anyway, he was a goddamn house, this guy. At the end of the meeting, I go, Dave Smith's here. Would you come up and see me? And this absolute house walks up. This guy is like 6'4" and 280. And I go, you seriously put a yam in your toilet? And he goes, how can you possibly know that? I go, because they tell me everything. I go, listen to me. You're not putting me in a jackpot at this hotel. You're going to go apologize to this lady. So
Jeez.
we go out to the lobby. I go, Myrna, meet me in the lobby. We go out there. There's Myrna. She's 4'6", maybe. This cat's 6'6". And I go, Myrna, Dave's got something to say to you. And he goes, I'm really sorry about that toilet. He goes, I go, so what the hell? Why'd you do that? He goes, my trainer took a look at me and he goes, you are absolutely perfect. Don't do anything. Nothing. And trainers got to yell at these guys because they're knuckleheads. How many times, and you know the legendary stories of somebody says, you look fantastic, and they go, you know, if I could get just a little bit harder, and then they wind up in the hospital. Anyway, this cat goes, I had this big yam left over, and I knew if I stuck it in the garbage, I'd go eat it. So
Jeez.
I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? I'll flush it. He goes, I flushed it, and the thing wouldn't flush, and I couldn't get back out. He goes, I'm really sorry. I go, all right, my man. But it's a fantastic group of people. It's so cool. That's why. And now we've been able to create the Masters World Championships, which I think is going to continue. Last year was the first year, and I think it's got a shot to keep growing. We've altered some things this year. I reduced we do it with an entry fee, because when folks started to first contact me, we were turning a lot of Masters people pro, but they didn't really have anywhere to go. How many of them could actually stand on an open pro stage? And there were no Masters pro shows. So they were asking me, and I said, okay. The issue was I couldn't get companies involved to support it. As you can imagine, they wanted to put their money into the open events. And I get that. So I said to the folks, look, we can do it one of two ways. We can run it with no prize money until I finally find a way to get some. Or I can charge you a $200 entry fee that you've been paying at the North America forever. And that prize money, or that entry fee, makes up your prize money. And it stays in a division. So if Vinnie's in the over 40s and there's 20 guys times 200, that money stays within that division. Some other division has a few guys, their prize money may be Mickey Mouse money, but it stays within the division. And
Nice.
we actually, last year, with the first year of the Masters World Championships, I wanted to give out bigger checks. So we had the entry fee, I think it was at $300. And the more I looked at it, I thought, this is just too much. They already pay for a pro card. So this year we dropped it down to $200. And every dime of that goes into the prize money for these folks. So I think it's going to continue to grow. Plus, with the advent of the Masters Olympia coming back, that's just another huge benefit to the Masters division as a whole.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah,
Gary, if I could ask you a question. So Bill's actually asking here, and I'll bring it into the screen. What's the date of the 2023 Pittsburgh Masters? He's asking. Or has it been
July 19th through the 22nd, and the men are Wednesday, Thursday, and the women are Friday, Saturday, and then the North America runs in August. I believe it's August 30, 31, September 1 and 2. And then September 3rd, Sunday, is when we'll have the Masters World Championships. So last year we had it in July. This year we moved it to September because it'll give more people a chance to qualify as pros. And then they can go right to the World Championships that Sunday. So
now, Gary, in July, are you bringing back the Masters Pittsburgh Pro?
No, I wanted to just stick with that World Championships until it builds up. instead of taking a chance of watering it down a little bit. So I talked to Jim about it, and he said, yeah, he goes, why don't you just put everything, all your eggs into the Masters World Championships.
Okay.
Develop that into something big, because the goal then, to tell you the truth, is to have it as a standalone event, not a fifth day, because even though people can do it, our team can do it, it doesn't mean they should. So the plan down the road at some point is to have that Masters World Championships as a more of a standalone event somehow.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't know if it was brought up. How did you guys meet at a show, or and how far back did you guys meet?
Oh, geez.
He was a kick-ass competitor, period, and well known by everybody because he was highly respected. He always showed up in great shape.
Thank you, Gary.
He had good presentation. He was the quintessential, really solid bodybuilder from Jersey. New Jersey turned out a ton of athletes.
Yep.
There's a bunch of gyms over there. Strong and Shapely, Kemper's Diamond Gym, a bunch of great gyms and athletes then. And, they had that blue collar work ethic. So they just turned out some kick-ass athletes left and right. And Vinnie was one of them. And, I was on the judging panel, and hell, it got to a point where if we were there, we were looking for him, because
cool.
he was one of those guys that you knew he was going to be in the first call out, guaranteed. He was that good. And then crazy as hell, turning the clock ahead, and I mentioned it briefly before, somehow he only got better. And I guess it's just a matter of learning how to train smarter. Some of us have learned how to do that, others have not. But he's taken the science to a whole new level.
Well, Gary, it's more like I focus on what I can do, not what I can't do anymore.
Good idea.
And that really has gotten me through, Gary, when I made my comeback in 17 and 18, taking dead last in Rich Singelman's show, the Masters Baltimore Pro, it was like a cloud hanging over me. And I was like, how do I do this again? I'm trying to do everything I used to do. And
so how many years had you been away?
I think it was like 6. And I had rotator cuff surgery. So there was 3 years I didn't even touch a weight because I had
I remember that
14 screws throughout both shoulders. And once I started doing things different, the wins started coming. And now I'm looking at, 8 Masters Pro wins, and hopefully I get an invite to the Masters Olympia. That would be phenomenal. Because, competing back in the 90s, it was so hard to earn your pro card, and it took me 16 years.
Yeah.
And now that I'm here, I don't want to lose this opportunity. I hope I get invited, and I know that I'll do a good presentation.
I was reading some of the stipulations the other day, and it's going to be interesting to see how that goes, because I can't wait to see what kind of names show up to do that. I really don't know what to expect. It could be interesting. Some guys there's still some guys who have always been in some pretty good shape. And
there's a lot of them.
I got to believe they have the itch to get back on stage, and with this being the Masters Olympia, some of those guys, I suspect this may be the push that they needed.
Yeah, Vinnie and I have our ideas, but we're just waiting for the actual, I guess, event to be announced in April. The actual card, I guess he'll say.
Yeah. The scorecard of who's going to be there. I can't wait to see that.
It's going to be cool.
I don't know. Dennis James, I wonder if he'll be in that mix. He's always stays in great shape. And I don't know.
We've looked at Darren Charles, Tony Pearson, Rusty Jeffers, maybe is what Vinnie and I are thinking. I'm sure there's a lot more.
Well, those are great names. Absolutely. Yeah, that could be very cool. It's always interesting. If you guys remember Marty Vranikar.
Yeah, I know Marty really well.
And Marty was a magazine cover guy, and he'd kind of gotten away from it after a bunch of years of kicking ass. And I ran into him. I used to run the Pennsylvania States in Harrisburg many years ago. And I heard someone had a conversation behind me, and I knew it was Marty Granicar. And I go, "What the hell are you doing here?" And he had a death in the family that he came up for. He thought, I thought I'd just jump in this thing for the hell of it. In the over 50s. And I go, "You're going to do the open, right?" Because he would have smoked anyone in the open. He was still that good.
Wow.
So he won the over 50s, no muss, no fuss. And I actually told him that day, I go, "Listen to me. I'm going to stalk you until you do the Masters Nationals. I will relentlessly stalk you," and which I did. I was torturing him all the time with texts. Sure enough, he came to the Masters Nationals and won there. But, he was a fantastic athlete for a long, long time, man.
Yeah, Marty he's a good guy too.
Oh, yeah, he judges for us, and I send people to him relentlessly for posing and stuff like that. And yeah, he's fantastic. Really cool. But, there's some guys that maybe some guys will show up at the Masters Nationals who used to compete. I'm going to mention one guy. I'm not going to say his name, but a guy called from Florida and said, "I need to get a ticket for my coach." And I said, "Who is that?" And he told me, and I go, "Hey, no problem. I'll hook him up." He was a legend at one point in time, and he wasn't now. And back in the day, this was one monster guy in the 290 range. So I knew this guy was coming. And I saw him. I was over by the scores table when I saw this guy walk in, and I knew it was him. And I mentioned to somebody, "Hey, there's so-and-so right there." And they go, "Where?" I go, "Right there." And he was probably 95 pounds. Healthy, to his credit, phenomenal, healthy, doing great. But what a difference. So turn the clock ahead another year, and another guy calls and says, "I got to get a ticket for my I know I'm getting ready. Where are you from? Florida. Who trains you? Defendus." And I go, "Well, if you're with Defendus, you're going to be in shape or dead because nobody trains harder than John." I go, "What's the chances of getting Defendus up here for the show?" He goes, "He never goes anywhere." And so I started torturing John. I go, "My man, you're going to come up here, right?" "No, I'm busy. I got this monster business." I go, "Look, Marty's going to be here." I named off a bunch of people that he would know. Sure enough, he showed. Well, first I said to him, I go, "Look, so-and-so showed up. He was 190. And, defend us." He goes, "F that. I'm not going to be no 190. I'm sending you pictures." He started sending me pictures of lat spreads. And he was an absolute house. So sure enough, he showed up that year.
Cool.
The two guys that I wanted the most, that I had corresponded with and tried to get, was Mendenhall and Lidlmeyer.
Oh, wow.
That would have been that about made my career right there if I could have got them on that master stage.
Yeah.
Incredible.
But I heard Rory. There's a rumor that Rory might do the Masters Olympia.
I'd love to see that, man. I still see him, and we stay in touch across social media. I would love to see that happen, man. Wow, what a trip.
Yeah. That would be an honor, standing on stage with those guys. For that. So with the Masters World next year, are you guys planning on adding anything in any age groups or keeping it at?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. So what happened, Vinny, was with there only being so many hours in the day, and I was doing every division, 212s, every single division. And I didn't know how many people would show up. So I didn't want to get in a jam, because typically at the Masters in North America, we do 5-year increments. So I thought I should probably back off. So we did over 40, over 50, and over 60, which worked well. I think we're going to stick to that format this year, just to make sure we can fit it in correctly and logistically and healthy for the athletes and comfortable. If the numbers continue to climb the way I think they will, and if this thing goes to a standalone event, then it'll be a 2-day event. And then we can start to add more age groups like 45, 55, 65 like that.
Cool.
That's
So,
the growth goal.
So Gary, I don't know if you're a numbers guy, but have you tracked like how much, like either percentage or numbers you're seeing increase over year over year over, let's say, the 40 and the 50 division? I mean, are we seeing double, 25%, or do you know?
Well, I don't know percentage wise. I know numbers wise, it continues to grow every year.
Excellent.
And obviously, with adding the numbers in the bikini division and the age groups, because now truthfully, we're up to over 60, and these ladies are spectacular. They're in great shape. They're living the lifestyle. So those numbers have made it climb simply by doing that. And what we do is we track the numbers of athletes in a class. So if it looks like there's too many people in a class, then it's time to split it up and maybe go to 4 classes in that division, or 6 classes, or whatever it takes. Because I'd rather have more people taking home hardware than not.
Of course.
I don't want, we already got some classes, there's 20, 25 people. I'd rather have that cut down if we can in any way possibly do that. That's what's happening in our class division, in our men's physique division, because those are really a home run, especially for the older athletes. Some of the guys just don't want to carry the size anymore or can't. So those are the divisions that are really going to take off. I can see that.
Is there any talk or anything about the pro weight classes increasing in the classic?
Well,
or are they staying?
At that point in time, that's something that the shot callers are going to have to figure out, because right now we're still doing 4 classes, and I got to believe that should go to 6. So that
personally, Gary, I could do classic, but I would have to drop like 5 pounds, and that's where my physique, shines, right, in the classic, because that's what I'm known for.
Well,
but I can't make the weight class.
The only thing, the issue though with classic, keep in mind, Vinny, it's not so much the class A, B, or C, it's your height.
Right. That's what I mean.
Even whether they have 4 classes or 8, you still got to be under that height and weight.
Right.
For your particular height. How tall are you?
I thought I was taller. I'm 5'6.5", and I would have to weigh 185. And so I get down to like 191, 192 for sure.
So that will not change.
Okay.
Because currently those things are stipulated. The only way that would change is if the higher ups went back in and said, okay, the guys are getting bigger, let's add 5 pounds to each inch, something like that,
Right.
Like they do with the pros. They measure them, but they give them 10 extra pounds than the amateurs have.
Right.
Yeah.
Gary, I have a question from a listener here, if you don't mind. It says, will Gary keep the guys in the morning and ladies following at the Pro Masters Worlds?
Yes. We will do that. I just looked at we just laid out the format a couple of days ago, and that's exactly what we will do. It creates such a comfort zone that in that early part of the day, we've got the men's prejudging right into the finals, clear them out and bring the women in. And it's such a comfortable situation back there, logistically and comfort-wise. So, yeah, we'll do that again.
Excellent. And Derek Farnsworth is actually watching. He said, wanted to thank Gary for creating Masters Pro World, especially adding all the divisions.
Farnsworth, what kind of ageless wonder is that? Seriously? That's goddamn amazing. It blows people's minds who haven't seen a Masters division, and they come in and their jaw hits the floor when you see somebody, and then they go, how old is this guy? But it goes to that whole idea of this is so much more of a science now, the keto diets and different kind of training, and maybe more to the point, probably not throwing around the kind of weights that you used to throw around 20 years ago, Vinny. More about concentration, isolation. It can still be muscle.
Yeah, I mean, I can get the job done. I just got to approach it a lot differently.
Hell
I
yeah.
mean, but then I see Derek training, and he's as strong as he's ever been. And the thing is too, like with me, I probably never listened to my body the way I should have, and I let my ego dictate what I was doing in the gym when I was younger.
Yeah.
So now, having some more common sense, I approach it a lot differently. I know
common sense. Did you say
Yeah.
common sense
common sense. Yeah,
in bodybuilding? Wow,
trying anyway.
that's a new concept right there, my man.
That's how you know you're getting old, when you use the word common sense.
No, for sure. But sorry, guys, just going to grab a plug because my phone's about to go south.
That's okay.
But a guy like Farnsworth, he's the exception, not the rule. Because when I hit 50, I had to quit training. I had to start training smart, and went to high reps, giant sets, isolation, concentration. And a guy in the gym who was younger than me by about 10 and strong as a horse, I ran into him years later at the grocery store, and he goes, by that time now he's 50. He goes, I still wonder how the hell you get any kind of a good workout using those Mickey Mouse weights and high reps. He goes, but now I get it. I go, yeah, well, necessity, my man.
Yep.
So Gary, I ask Vinnie. So at your age now, you wake up in the morning. Anything bothering you? I mean, you able to jump out of bed, or you got to warm up the car a little bit, or what?
How old are you?
I just turned 50 this year.
Oh my God, I can understand now why you asked that question. Yeah, let's see. I can tell you.
Is this another podcast? Maybe.
It'd be easier to ask me what doesn't hurt.
Okay.
You got to be careful swinging your legs out of bed to make sure that when your feet hit the floor, they're going to be planted in such a way, not unlike a squat, so that something doesn't snap.
Yep.
I sat down on an exercise ball 5 years ago. I was going to help somebody with their posing. So I sat down on an exercise ball to save my back, which hurt like hell, along with my hips. Sat down on the exercise ball and blew out my quad tendon.
Oh.
Simply by sitting on that goddamn ball. I got friends. One of my best friends put his car, stepped out of his Cadillac, his foot slipped, and he tore his quad tendon. So, these things are prepared to go any moment because of the stupid things we did years ago. I mean, I don't know about you, Vinnie. I was never a powerlifter. I never did that for a foundation. So on the few times that I did do it, because we try to work out with the powerlifters on Friday nights for squat night, and we'd be lifting weights that I had no business lifting. I did squats one night, and those powerlifters would wrap your tendons so tight you had to limp up to the bar. And I did 605 for 3. And I swear on my grandson's head, I don't remember the first 2 reps. Because, back then we were so loaded up on that ephedrine stack that, you think about the stupid things we did back then. Holy cow.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky to be in the kind of shape I'm in now. Truthfully, I'm pretty healthy. I've had some fusions, fused a whole bunch of things in my neck, stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm pretty lucky.
Good. Yeah, it's humbling, but I still love the gym and I love training, and Sean and I talk, and and people ask me like, well, what age did you start to feel it, that it was actually changing? And I got to be honest, anywhere in the last 3 years, between 53 to now, I'm going to be 56 in April, and I feel more banged up than ever, but it's okay. Like I can deal with it. I know when it's going to rain. Let's put it that way.
Oh, we make the best weathermen in the world. Forget about it.
Yep.
But the guys, the guys who abused, those of us who may have abused ourselves along the way, we're the ones paying the price now. There were some guys that were smart. Remember Dave Hawk?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
So Dave Hawk is a guy that, man, he knew his body really well. and he was a guy that was very sure of himself. Some would say cocky or arrogant enough to do what he knew he should do and not follow the flow. So he would train with relatively light weights, high reps, concentration, isolation, and grow like there was no tomorrow. And did not abuse his body, his joints, tendons, ligaments. I can remember Charles Glass telling me one time, "You've got to treat your joints like glass, because if you tear one up, you're going to have a major problem, obviously."
Oh,
So
sure.
it's those people who train smart. I mean, Dexter Jackson's a great example. Me and the guys went down to run one of his shows in Memphis, and we had a chance to be with him for a while. It was cool. And so we're like, okay, so what's the story? At that point, he was, what, 50 something years old. And how can this be still happening? He said, I never trained through an injury. He said, if I got injured, I shut it down. And I know for myself, I don't know about you, Vinny, but I thought, you got to train through this. You got to be push. You don't want to be a sissy. So,
well, now I don't do that, but I used to. Yeah. That's why I try to have more common sense now.
And if you think back in the days, we were doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, same workouts. Then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, another group of workouts, all the same, because you didn't want to dare vary that, because how could you track your gains if you did other things?
Right.
And a guy named Eugene Solomon won the Pittsburgh Championships in '76. And he was as cocky could be. Nice guy, but cocky and arrogant. And I remember I said to him that day, so what's the secret? How do you do this? And everybody on the planet was doing every body part 3 days a week. Sore as hell, couldn't get over 200 pounds. And I said to this cat in the locker room, I remember it so well. I said, what's the secret? He goes, I kind of listen to my body. And whatever I feel is necessary, that's what I'll do. Sometimes I'll do everything once a week, whatever. And I flat out said, Eugene, luckily I didn't get my gas kicked. I said, Gene, if you don't want to tell me, fine, but don't lie to me. The fact of the matter is, he had it figured out 15 years ahead of the rest of us.
Yeah.
Smart enough to do what he knew he should do for his body.
Well, it took me 40 years.
I'm with you, my man. I'm with you. So, at any rate, these Masters things are pretty cool. I think it's the group that frankly the companies miss out on, because these are the people with the disposable cash. These are that 35 to 55 group, are the people turning to fitness because of healthcare situations and otherwise. So they're looking to get involved working out, and sometimes that leads them into competing, especially for the women in bikini and wellness, and especially for the men in men's physique. You don't have to be some monster in the Masters. You can. It's a GQ with muscle, and I think that the companies are missing the boat by not supporting those Masters divisions more. I think that's where they should be doing, where they should be promoting their products, wherever they may be.
Yep.
Well, maybe one day it'll catch on.
Yeah, I think one day. I mean, we keep marketing the hell out of it, and the shows, the athletes keep showing up, better than bigger and in better shape than ever. It's my favorite group.
Cool.
I've always find ways to support them.
It's
Guys,
funny. A few years ago, when I first turned pro, and Gary, I think you could appreciate what I'm saying. I was of the mindset of I always wanted to turn pro in the nationals, and I did the nationals I won the USA in '93. I did the nationals from '94 all the way to 2005, and I actually got upset when I got my pro card at the Masters Nationals because I wanted to do the Nationals. I remember seeing Steve Weinberger, and he said, "What's your first pro show you're going to do?" I said, "No, I'm doing the Nationals in November. This was just a warm-up." He's like, "Vin, you got your pro card." And I had to like readjust my thinking. And now that I'm full circle and can come full blown into being a Masters, I'm embracing it. And like you're saying, it's just it's another world backstage. You know, it used to be the talk was different, and now I'm talking to guys about 401ks and their grandkids. You know, it's like completely different thing, and it's so relaxed, and it's like, yes, I train for a show to win, but at the same time, I can't tell you how many more. I have probably more friends in the last 3 to 5 years competing in the Masters than I did all those years I competed on the national level.
Sure. You know, I can admit to being a first-class jerk backstage when I was competing. You know, the competitive instinct was so high. And I frankly did a 180 and changed in one day when Jim Mannion put me in charge of running the Mid-Atlantic Zone. Because I used to spend a lot of time with Jim, especially when it came to promoting his show. And we would travel around the tri-state area. And here's a guy who ran the world of bodybuilding domestically at the time. And I'd see how he treated people.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, here I was, 27, full of myself, first-class jerk, thinking, I don't know this guy. Why would I talk to this guy? I'd see Jim Mannion talking to everybody. Hey, my man, what's going on? Wow, you look good. Wow, good. I used to think to myself, why is he talking to these people? And the day he put me in charge, I thought, from this moment forward, everything I do is going to reflect on him. So I better turn my ass around here right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what happens then in the Masters ranks. There's maturity. Like you said, friendship. They develop relationships. It's a whole different trip than it is in the other ones. And I can relate to what you said, Vinny, that there were so many folks that go, I'm not doing a North America. I don't want to win my pro card there. I want to win it at the Nationals or USA.
Yep.
And meanwhile, if you look at if you happen to go on that one website and look back at who won in North America, it's a pretty kick-ass list of people, including Linda Murray and some others. That got their pro card there. And then eventually people were realizing, look, over time, the North America has caught up to some of these other events. I mean, people want that pro card, so the top quality athletes are showing up there too. You know, I think the USA and the Nationals are still probably the dominant events. So North America is not far behind. And like you said, get that pro card and get on that pro stage. It's pretty cool, man. It's really awesome. I'm open for suggestions from you two guys, though, as to what I should do next. Because, you know, the last thing we do, I challenge, you know, I run the Mid-Atlantic Zone, and I challenge our promoters, who are, in my mind, the best around, to constantly push the envelope on their productions, lighting, staging, venues, awards, production, because you can't sit back. You must improve, because there's someone, if you happen to look over your shoulder, there's someone chasing you. And
the only one thing that can come to mind, Gary, is, you know, the 60 seconds of posing to your music. As a professional, I want to showcase it a little bit more than that. And I know you guys are crunched on time because there's so many competitors. But that's the only thing that I can come up with is like, I would love to have 90 seconds like we did back in the day.
That's a good point. And that's part of my goal, is to have these things as standalone events. Because if I have it where I could have it as a 2-day event, that gives you double hours to deal with. And then you can expand all of that stuff more to the point to where it should be. So, yeah, right now we're under time constraints. But my hope and goal was that this will be the last year for that. And we can figure out a way to maybe partner it up with another event of some sort. See what happens. I know we're going to try to add some more master's classes at that Ben Weider Pro-Am event. That's it's the only drug tested pro qualifier in the world. And then there's also a pro show with it. And the people who win the pro divisions get automatic qualification to the Olympia. So
Sweet.
I think we're going to hopefully get the okay from Tyler and Jim on maybe getting some more Masters divisions in that one too, because it's pretty cool.
Nice.
So Derek's agreeing with you, Vinny. He says, yes, please increase the night show posing. And then for me, Gary, the thing that I hear for shows in general is that sometimes you get great lighting and sometimes the lighting is not as good. And it seems to be, the overall landscape, that sometimes the lighting is always a big issue.
Oh, well, no question. And unfortunately, we've seen it even at some of the bigger level events. So we're constantly relentlessly pushing everyone to, hey, you can't go wrong with too much lighting. We can always back.
And then Bill is saying for increments of 5 years above the 50 plus.
Yeah, and some of them we've got 50, 55, 60, and I think then we go to 70. So by tracking the numbers, we may be able to go to 65 next.
Nice.
I'd much rather do that and have people on a level playing field because, as you well know, as you get up in the years, that 5 years makes a big difference.
Sure.
10-year gap is too much.
Yeah.
But last year, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we had 12 guys over 70.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just crazy as hell. Yeah, it's true.
Well, we appreciate what you're doing for us, Gary, and that's why we wanted you on tonight. And it's exciting that Masters is growing. And if it wasn't for guys like you, we wouldn't have a venue. We wouldn't have a platform. So thank you so much.
I think if you create the venue and create the platform, they will come because they're getting better every single year. It's a trip to watch. It's so cool. And they're the coolest group of folks, man. They're just way cool. There was, way back in the day when we were still in the range of 800 athletes, I used to call everybody. We were not yet into online registrations. So we had our athlete numbers were about 800. So I would call every athlete and maybe leave a message if I got the message. Hey, it's Gary from the Masters Nationals. Just want to let you know I got your entry. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks. And we were at the one event, and my buddy was working the ticket booth, and he heard people in a conversation. And this one girl said to another girl, she goes, "This is my first time at this event." And she goes, "Oh, yeah, it's cool." And she goes, "He called me." and the girl goes, the other one goes, "Yeah, he calls everybody." And the girl said, "That's impossible." She goes, it became a big fight between me and my boyfriend because my boyfriend got the message. And here was this guy saying, "Hey, look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks."
Oh, geez.
And she goes, I don't know what's going on. And the girl goes, "No, he calls everyone." And the girl goes, "Don't you think he probably just calls the girls?" And she goes, like maybe I'm using the competitor list as Match.com, right? So the girl who had already been to the event, she goes, "No, he calls both of us, even though we're at the same place. He calls and leaves 2 messages." And the first girl who had not been there before, she calls her boyfriend over and she grabs him up by the collar and she goes, "You asshole, he calls everybody."
Man. So, guys, as we wind down here, if you don't mind, I'd like to show a video here. Maybe have you both jump in your DeLorean time machine here and just show a couple of quick seconds here. Vinny knows what the video is.
I want you to make sure you take a look at the shoulder pads in that suit.
Oh boy!
All right.
Where was that show, Vinny? Was that Carolina?
I think this was Texas. No, it can't be.
I'm thinking South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Or Chicago. Yeah, take a look at the shoulder pads on that guy's suit.
Yeah, sorry guys, it seems to be buffering here. I don't know why it's going, but yeah, it's basically a posing clinic for you and Vinny.
Yeah,
Jim called. Jim, I was just heading for the gym, and he called me that afternoon. It was like Friday afternoon, I believe, or Thursday, and he goes, "Get on the ballroom. They want to shoot something on what to look for in the poses." So I actually had a black T-shirt on and threw the suit jacket on and head down there, and there's Vinnie standing there looking like he looked ready to go. So it made it easy because I go, "Hey, this is what you should look like, and this is what we're looking for." So
that was great.
man, really
that,
cool.
that like 5 minutes after you walked away, I actually got the most symmetrical award.
Yeah, hell yeah, good,
Yeah.
with good reason. Hey,
Fun
well,
times.
you know what? I appreciate you guys having me on, man. This is really cool stuff. You guys do a great job, make it very simple.
Thank you so much, Gary. Appreciate you coming on.
Hey, good to go.
So, Gary, as you wind down, tell people where to find you, how they can contact you for some of your posing clinics. Where can people get in touch with you?
Well, thanks to my brother, I got a website. Many years ago, we stepped into the new millennium and out of being a dinosaur. So it's at GaryUdit.com. Everything's listed right there. They can find all the events that take place. We also list all the events for the Mid-Atlantic zone, also Arizona. So everything is right there and really easily accessible. Thanks to my brother, he's good at this stuff. So, and then I tell them all the time, reach out, contact me, text me, or call me. People relentlessly say, "Man, look, I know you're busy, but," and I go, "You know what? To be honest with you, I'm not, because here we are, January. I got a ton of stuff done for these upcoming shows already because I learned my lesson 30 years ago. You can't be doing stuff last minute. So a night like tonight, I can be getting a ton of paperwork type things done and prepared so that I can take a call anytime."
Cool.
And Vinnie, where can people contact you, find you on social media?
At Vinnie Galanti _ on Instagram and my name on Facebook.
And you've got a website as well, correct?
mastersmuscle.com.
And for myself, I'm subtalk_radio. Thank you so much for checking in. Next Thursday, we have Jose Raymond at 7 o'clock. The week after that, we have Rusty Jeffers. And the week after that, we have Bill Grant. Looking forward to it. Gary, again, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary.
All right.
Appreciate you.
See you guys.